From the unknown to the stars, from the couch to the car, from the unheralded and the unheard, to the legends and beyond, it's where we all belong. Yes, this is where it all starts. From every genre, from every plane, this is where the music's played. So tune right in, won't you bring a friend? This is where it all begins. Welcome to the show, let the music flow, of every style and creed. And you can bet your socks that ETX rocks, ETX rocks.
Hey guys, Boston Chris here with the ETX Rock Show, the #1 resource for independent music in Northeast Texas. And this is episode number 302. And as you guys know, we are a big fan of the songwriter. You've seen Vince Gill on the show, Leslie Satcher, Whisper and Bill Anderson, so many of the legendary songwriters. And Tony Ramey is no stranger to success in the game of songwriting.
Well, I was going to say you're kind of going down from that name group, but
there's
at
no
least
way.
I'm here, right?
This man has done a duet with Willie Nelson. I don't want to hear that.
Well, that was interesting. A lot of fun. Yeah, absolutely. What a sweet soul.
Yeah,
that guy is. I mean,
and a hero of yours.
So yeah, absolutely. Willie, his album "Redheaded Stranger."
Yeah.
I know I'm sharing my age with everybody here, but I heard that album for the first time on an 8-track.
Wow.
My parents had
one of the best albums ever.
ever recorded, in my opinion, and that was really my, I guess, I call it my awakening to consciousness about music, and I was it's probably 8 years old, 7 or 8 years old, and I learned how to work the 8-track tape in their big stereo, my mom and dad's stereo system. It was like, back then it was furniture, if you remember.
Oh, yeah.
Stereos were actually
Absolutely.
like
They're made
furniture.
Out of wood.
They're made out of wood, they're furniture. So anyway, they had one that they had gotten, I think, from their parents, or somebody knew somebody that couldn't afford something like that, but they inherited or something. Anyway, so I learned how to work the 8-track, and there was this album in there, Redheaded Stranger, with a picture of Willie on it, and I didn't know anything. I mean, I liked music and songs, but not, in a serious way.
So everything since then had to be a letdown.
Well,
you found the best album first.
I found the best one first.
Yeah.
Well, it was the one that sort of, and as you know, it's a theme album. It's a story album. It's a concept album and story album, and so it's the first one that sort of awakened my soul to what music can be, what it can do. Because since a really early age, I've always loved writing poetry and writing stories and all that. It's always fascinated me. So anyway, that album really was the eye opener for me at such a young age. I didn't exactly know how it worked on me the way it did, but I knew there was something magical about it.
All right, so Tony did bring his guitar with him today. He's going to play a couple of songs for us. Tell us a little bit about the first one. This is the one I really, really like.
The Pocatalico. I wrote this song actually. I was driving up to Oklahoma, and I was going to write a song with my good friend and a great songwriter, Roger Springer. And Roger wrote a lot of songs for, especially early on, that sort of launched and built Mark Chestnut's career. And so, anyway, Roger and I are friends, and he had moved to Oklahoma, and he's still there, as far as I know. And we were going to render that day, and I had a verse going, and we got up there and started talking about, life on the road, and some of the roads that you go down in this business, and that's where Pocatalico came from. We wrote it there in Oklahoma. Roger's place is Tishomingo.
Okay.
And I used to play in a little creek in West Virginia, where I'm originally from, called Pocatalico Creek, after the Pocatalico Indians. And so they both worked, and
same syllables.
Same syllables, and it rhymes. And of course, a lot of people have ever heard of Pocatalico Creek, but that's kind of the intrigue for a lot of people that like that song, you know.
Thank God for Google.
Yeah, right. Google and you know, I think we've got a video of that little tune out as well. So it got a lot of accolades from a lot of my fan base down in Texas.
It's just a super cool song, and I'm
Thank you,
excited to show you guys. It's Tony Ramey live in the ETX Rocks living room. The song is called Pocatalico. Y'all check it out.
Been blinded by the big city lights of Nashville. Been stuck for days in LA's traffic jam. Had the soul stole from my songs run through the hat. Till they gave up trying to change who I am. I'm a misty mountain West Virginia morning. I'm a lonesome whistle blowing on a midnight train. I'm a southern wind not knowing where I'm going. The black top and white lines in my vein. Lord knows when that sweet chariot swings low, I'll be waiting on the banks of Pocatalico. This crazy life takes me down that highway so far, sometimes I don't know why I live. And every now and then the devil gets me sideways. Oh, but through it all I ain't never lost myself. I'm a misty mountain West Virginia morning. I'm a lonesome whistle blowing on a midnight train. I'm a southern wind not knowing where I'm going. The black top and white lines in my vein. Lord knows when that sweet chariot swings low, I'll be waiting on the bank of Pocatalico. Lord knows when that sweet chariot swings low, I'll be waiting on the bank of Pocatalico.
All right, so we are back. Yeah, and you were writing songs from the age of 11, really.
Yeah, I started writing. I mean, I was writing short stories and poems, and then when I was about 10 or 11, finally decided to pick up the guitar because my whole family played instruments, you know, and so I finally decided to pick up my granddad's Sears and Roebuck Silvertone guitar.
Nice.
And had an F-hole, you know, it was an F-hole. I still got it in my house. And hanging at the end of the hallway, you know, and it's sort of a reminder of where I started. But I picked it up and learned to play a few chords and
Did you
a
teach
few
yourself?
notes. Self-taught. My dad, you know, played, so I'd sit and watch him, and then my uncles played, and you know, my family was very musical, and you know, family reunions and whatnot, they'd all bring their banjos and guitars and all that. So I was around it a lot, but I was never formally trained in it. I just kind of picked things up here and there, and I'd learn a few things from my relatives, my aunts, uncles, my dad, and started playing guitars. And so when I was about 11 or 12, I started putting what I was writing to music, and it just made it
Now,
was sort of
your family openly reaching out to teach you, or were you asking
no,
questions?
I would ask questions. I mean, when my dad picked up the guitar just to noodle around a little bit, because he was never serious about it. It was just sort of innate in our family tradition. Just was rich with music of some kind, you know. And when he would pick it up, I was just intrigued by it. I was really interested in it, and so I would mess around, and they never really, you know, pushed it on me. It was just something I was. They never needed to, I guess, because I was always noodling around with a guitar and doing stuff at the house. And then when I was about 15 or 16, a friend of mine was at school, and he brought his guitar. He was taking guitar lessons, and he was playing, like Eagles on the guitar or whatever, and all these. And I played baseball. I had plenty of distractions from music at that point, So he's playing the guitar, and he was sitting. I remember he was sitting in the lunchroom, and he had the guitar, and all these girls were around going, "Oh my gosh, look how that's so cool!" And I was like, "What's so cool about that?" I mean, everybody plays the guitar. I mean, I was like, "What are y'all talking about?" And they're like, "Oh, he plays the guitar," And I'm like, "So what's the big deal? Everybody plays guitar." I thought everybody did that. I didn't know it was a big deal, but I saw these girls just kind of like magnetic. It was just
time to bring out that silver.
Yeah, and I went, "Wait a minute here." So, and they were like, "You don't know, what do you play guitar?" I said, "Well, yeah, I play guitar. Give me that thing." So I started playing guitar, and I'm like, "Man, this is better than football, baseball. It's better. I mean, this is like, a chick magnet, So probably what got me into it more seriously than anything else, it was an easy way to meet girls, So I started playing a little more, when I was 15, 16, kind of, doing little school showcases here and there. And I was listening to, Neil Diamond and Dan Fogelberg and
We'd be
Jim
talking
Croce
like middle 80s here.
Yeah. So all of my big influences, and Merle Haggard and Christopherson and all that. I was just really drawn to the songwriter,
the words,
the words, and that's right. So that's kind of what I grew up on. And then by the time I, was in college, I was playing I was playing a little garage band when I was a senior in high school just for fun. But, when I was in college, I started getting a little bit serious because I was making money at it. I was like paying for books.
From the age of 17, right? You were published.
Yeah. I mean, when I was 17, I was playing these little garage bands in high school, just annoying everybody's parents,
Yeah.
And then by the time I was writing songs and whatnot. And then by the time I hit college, I started booking gigs, playing a lot of cover songs, and because that's kind of what you do. You go play in the cover bands, but I was still writing my own songs, and so by the time I was probably a junior, senior in college, it was my everybody's working bagging groceries, and I was out on the road, playing gigs and making as much or more than most of my friends were making,
and still kicking ass in college.
And I was still going to school. I probably let a few classes go, too many classes go when I was a sophomore doing it. Kind of had to recalibrate, but it was I went to college on scholarship, academic scholarship, and I enjoyed it, but I didn't like it quite as much as music at the time, and so I it kind of worked itself out. And when I was a sophomore, I got a little too distracted by it, and then my scholarship got in jeopardy, and I was like, well, I don't want to actually pay for this stuff,
right.
So I kind of had to correct myself, and went on to do that, and got a master's degree in lit, and I was playing music the whole time. It was that was sort of my side job.
I was reading that about you, master's degree in literature. Honestly, one of the best songwriters I've ever heard.
Oh, well, thanks for saying
God,
so.
I love your stuff.
Appreciate you saying that. Yeah.
Obviously, a lifelong love for the word.
Oh yeah,
Whether it's
absolutely.
Paired with music or
not, it's just I'm very fascinated by that, endless ocean of story, because it just goes on forever. And so I've always been a pretty avid reader, and I love literature. I love, playwrights and novelists and short story writers. I mean, I was just a huge fan of that great ocean of stories. So English lit was just I naturally sort of gravitated to it. Not to mention the fact that I thought it was just ridiculously easy. I mean, so you're going to college.
But it's not.
Well, I mean, a lot of people say that, and then I was going to school thinking, man, we're going to sit here and talk about, Edgar Allan Poe for an hour,
Yeah.
and actually I'm going to get a grade for it, and I've got a scholarship, And so the reason I went back for a master's degree is that, I was playing music, but I was also working as a reporter for this little newspaper. So I was a journalist, and so I'd go cover the town council meetings, and then there'd be an accident out on a county road. I'd have to go cover that and take photos and then write the story and all that. And I got a call, and when it was an okay job, I kind of liked it because I was writing after all, But the thing is that the school called where I graduated, Marshall University, and they were like, "Hey, we've got this money, that we need to allocate somewhere, and we thought maybe you'd be interested." So they called me and said, "Would you like to come and do the master's program? Because we really think you'd be good at it, and you did great in you're undergraduate." And so I said, "Well, I don't, I got to kind of work. I got to make a little money, And they're like, "Oh, well, we'll pay you too. I mean, we're going to pay you a little stipend, and then you'll get, of course, your school's paid for, and then you got to direct the writing center." And I said, "So you guys are going to pay me to take classes? Is that what you're saying?" And
Wow.
like, "Yeah, that's
Tough
essentially."
gig.
Yeah, I'm like, "Well, yeah, sure, So that's why I went back for my master's, because I got school paid for, and I was sitting in classrooms talking about Shakespeare and American lit and statesmen's writings and all that, and I'm thinking, this is crazy that they're actually doing this for people, So I finished that degree, and then I was on my way to law school, and that's when Nashville sort of called, because I'd always done music just as a sideline, An old teacher of mine from middle school used to tell me when I would see him later on, I saw him around town. He would say, "Man, you're the only guy I know who's got music as a backup plan." I guess.
It quickly became the forefront, though, for you.
It did. I mean, once I moved to Nashville, when I got the call from Buddy Cannon, who was interested in my music and liked what I did, and I didn't know who Buddy was because I was sort of disconnected with that whole. I mean, I knew what Nashville was. I knew that it was the scene of country music and sort of the hub of the wheel, so to speak. But I didn't know anybody in that town. I'd gone to that town to record a couple of little road albums, and studios were great, the musicians were great, but in terms of the industry, I didn't know anybody. So when Buddy called me at my house, I didn't know this guy. I thought I knew it was a town, quite a few squirrels in it, So I thought, well, who is this guy? And so I vetted him a little bit with some friends of mine at radio, and found out that he was a real deal. He was the guy, producer. And so he came up, watched a few shows, and essentially he kind of said, "Hey, look, I'm head of A&R at Polydor Mercury, and would like for you to do a record, do at least an EP starting out, a spec deal is what they called it, and then it sort of developed into the full record deal." And so that's what moved me to town, as I had a deal with Mercury, and I was going to go to law school. And
in your spare time.
Yeah. Well, I was heading up to Ada, Ohio. I had my room rented. I had everything ready. And then when I got the offer, actually, I literally went to Nashville the weekend before law classes started on Monday. This was in late August. And literally, it was the weekend before, because Buddy called me. He'd been talking to me several, and he'd come up and watched a few shows. And he finally gave me the phone call and said, "Hey, I know you're headed to law school, but, you think you could come down, and, I'd like to talk to you about a few things, if you're interested." And he said, "I'll be here Saturday. I'll be in my office if you want to come down, And I was like, well, I can't not come down. It was only 5 hours after all, So anyway, I drove down, and that's essentially what he said. He said, "Look, I know you're going to school and all that, but here's a contract, and, I'd like to have you on the label." So I thought, well, do I want to go to school for another 3 years, or do I want to cut an album? Let me see.
It's an easy decision. Been going to school all your life, by God.
Yeah, and then some of that, I don't know. Every now and then, because of the way this business is, it's just a crazy business, and it's a hard business, And I'm not going to tell you there aren't those days where I go, man, what was I thinking? What was I thinking? But I think the long and short of it has come out to, I've been really blessed, and well, I'm still doing it, and I don't know, my folks have been telling me I've been working on retirement for 25 years, just practicing for it, and probably, they're right in a lot of ways, but you do have to work hard, but you just happen to love what you do, is all.
Now, Tony has, he's a very humble guy, first of all, but he's got his 12th album coming out in January. Multiple gold records, platinum records, former Independent Artist of the Year.
Oh, right.
So multiple awards as well. You're a very, very successful songwriter.
Well, I've been, like I said, the blind squirrel will find an acorn.
I understand. Well, the blind squirrel's been finding a lot of acorns. That's all I'm going to say.
I got in a thicket of it.
What I really want to talk about with you is because of the 11 and now 12 albums that you have released. Some of those have been major label records. Some have not. They've been indie. So it's really interesting as a listener to listen to your evolution through all of that.
Right.
Obviously, you have a whole lot more freedom now as Tony Ramey than you did in Nashville.
Yeah.
So to hear your Nashville recordings as opposed to what you're doing now,
right.
I would imagine there had to be a lot of internal struggle when you were releasing those major records.
There was and there wasn't. I mean, part of the problem that I had with the Nashville label deal when I was, for example, I was, Giant Records for 15 minutes, Asylum, and then RCA, we courted each other for 10 minutes, is that I was pretty much a hard head when it came to the music part of it.
Right.
And I didn't know any better than not to compromise any part of that. So the way that industry works is that when you enter into an agreement with a major record company, you have to make a decision. One is you either are going to comply and compromise the music, at least some, in order to, I guess, serve the masses or what the label feels. The commercialism is what it is. Or you say no, and then they will eventually show you the way out the door. So I was the guy that got shown the way out the door. But and the thing is that, looking back on it, there's no doubt I could have probably maneuvered my way into, you compromise a little bit, and then later on you do more of what you want as you gain, your brand grows, as you're more successful. But I didn't really, when you're 25, 26, I didn't have the wherewithal, the business savvy, let's say.
Well, not just business savvy, but do you feel like there was just an overwhelming belief in yourself, like in what you
Well, I just felt like I couldn't do anything else but what I did.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
Exactly.
And I was very afraid. Really, it was the fear of me coming off like some schmuck, because essentially that's what it would come off as, in my opinion, if I were singing a song like that I didn't, believe in, or that I don't connect with, I felt like I would just make a complete donkey of myself on the stage, because I don't know, my brain and my creative faculties won't work that way. It's that's more of like, I don't know, that's more of like Oscar-winning acting than it is being yourself and being who you are as an artist. So it really wasn't that my stuff is better, as much as it was, I can't see myself wearing a tutu and skinny jeans and dancing across the stage with smoke bombs coming up out of the, stage. So it was more of that than it was, because I was, every artist to a degree is pretty insecure about what they do, is it good enough?
Especially songwriters.
Sure, we're always searching and hoping and all that. The older you get, the less of that you have to deal with, but but at that age, yeah, I mean, there was all kinds of trepidation about, is my stuff going to connect with an audience on a commercial scale, on a commercial level. And I felt like it would, because it was connected with people on, at least in my little camp, the fans that I had gathered over the years. But there's really no way of knowing, and so you're talking to these people wearing these suits and ties and making, $190,000 a year to try to sell a song to radio, to buy them TVs,
Right.
And you just say, well, they apparently know more than I do, but my problem was, I don't think I can do that,
Right. So when you get away from that, and now you're Tony Ramey, indie artist again, is there relief, or is it more relief or more fear?
Well, I think it's relief, because I mean, I always went down the major label road, but I never got far enough to release an album under their aegis, under their their banking system is what it is. So I never really knew the other to that degree.
Right.
I always, I would start a project with a major label, and then after I, ticked them off, they would just say, "Here, just take your songs, get out the door. We don't really want to deal with you anymore." And so I would take it, and I always took my projects, and just did them myself. I pressed them myself, was on the road myself, and I always had folks who would help. I mean, I had a couple of independents over the course of the years with a few friends, and we had an infrastructure in place. I mean, we would have promoters, and we were doing the Music Row radio thing, and then I was
pre-social media, right?
Yeah, pre-social media, and you kind of had PR people, and then and I had my name show up in Rolling Stone or Billboard every now and then as an indie kind of underground guy, But with that, when you're talking about a commercial industry like that, I mean, you're looking at, you're actually competing on a level with millions and millions of dollars. So there's no way.
And millions of other artists too.
And other artists that are out there doing the same thing, who have more money than you do, and there'll always be some of that.
Not necessarily more talent, though.
Well, I mean, you'd like to think so,
Yeah.
but it's, the reality of this industry is, and I'm not talking about the art form, but I'm talking about the industry. The reality of the industry is it's very commerce driven. I mean, Nashville and L.A. and New York and those places don't care about art. I mean, they care about money. I mean, that's kind of what they deal in. So, and I understand all that. I kind of knew it intuitively, even when I
feel like the tide is changing right now, though, in the 21st century.
It is. I
think it's coming back around to the art of things again.
Well, it is, because of social media, because there's so much it's a more free platform, and
do you think that helps Tony Ramey?
Well, it does to a degree, because whereas before I couldn't release, my Places album, which was released in 04-05, was distributed through a Nashville distributor, who I handed him 3,000 albums and said, "Okay, so good luck with it. So I hope you can get these placed." And of course, I'm footing the bill for him. So he did what little internet there was to do with Amazon and some of the others that had just sprung up. And then the rest of them he placed hard copy. He was placing hard copy. The problem was, I never saw the albums again, nor did I see any money from it. So I was not in control whatsoever of my own product.
Right.
Now
You are.
I am in control of my own product, at least, and though the sales may not be what someone would experience at a label with promotional money to push it, at least it's as much or more than what I was making as.
And not only that, but you can see it immediately.
Well, yeah, I can see what's happening. I get reports from the streaming services and from I think there are tons of places now. There's CD Baby and there's DistroKid and there's all
CDX,
the CDX and all that stuff.
Spotify. There's so many.
Yeah, the downside though is if you're an independent artist, you have to be a whole lot more diligent and business savvy than what I am.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really very...
There's always something more to learn.
Well, yeah, and most of the people that I see are really, really successful as independent artists are people who are utilizing YouTube, like to the nth degree, or Vivo, or whatever those.
Right.
Because it's the age of video,
Instagram.
even if it's just a lyric.
Instagram's
video.
another big one too.
And Instagram, and I have an Instagram account, but I don't cater to it as much as
we have one too. I always forget it's there.
I mean, I don't know
know
if it's an age thing or if it's just.
It is. We just don't get it.
I mean, to me, you only get a minute. What can you say in a minute?
Say in a minute? Yeah,
exactly.
That's why our show's an hour long, guys. That's right.
There you go.
Close to
That's
an hour.
right.
You can't say it all in a minute.
That's right. That's right.
It's like to be continued on the next Instagram post.
Yeah. Now, there's a certain level. My buddy, I've got a friend of mine, John Wolf, who's a Texas artist.
Absolutely.
Yeah, John's a
artist.
friend of mine. And he and I write songs together every so often. But I see him, and he's just great at it. I mean, that guy is he's literally a CEO of his corporation. And he just is really smart like that. So
And
I've seen
that
him
right
raise it.
there is Texas.
Oh, right,
I mean,
right.
there's
He's
of
touring
artists.
everywhere now,
Right.
but he started in the South
Right.
Texas circuit, like Cody. He's doing some shows with
Cody and Aaron Watson and all these other
all
guys.
those guys,
that are
man.
their own boss and
That's
doing
right.
everything themselves.
But they have this, I think, just from what I know of John, because I don't know Cody and the other guys. I mean, I've met Aaron several times.
Right.
He seems to be a super, super nice guy, and all of them seem to be really good people. But Kevin Fowler, whom I've written with a few times, but these guys just have, it seems to me, this capacity to manage and micromanage and run the show like business people, and they're tremendously talented that way, as well as with their music,
Right.
And so I've learned a lot in the last year from hanging with John and watching him do what he does, because he's just really good at it. And so what I was going to say is with Instagram now, because he has so many followers, he can cut longer videos than just a minute. So I guess once you graduate, and the
I didn't know that.
Yeah. If you get so many followers, they'll
They unlock more time for you.
They can unlock
Okay.
time and all
All right.
that stuff, which makes sense. But with social media, as you know, it's there's a lot of the same stuff going on. You can throw more money at it, and it'll do a few more things.
So what brought Tony Ramey to Texas?
Well, I mean, I had been living in Nashville for about 18 years, I guess, and writing for publishers, and I started to not understand what was happening in Nashville.
Are we talking about the changes that were...
the musical changes,
Yes, the
more than
musical
anything else. And I'm not one of these cats who'll get on here and talk about bro country and hip hop and down with all that. To me, it's irrelevant, because I don't do it, I don't deal in it, I don't understand it, right? But I'm a real practical kind of guy, and I had been writing songs for 15, 16 years in that town for George Strait's company and for Cherry Lane Nashville and for Tom Collins Music, which, I started out at Tom's, and he produced Ronnie Millsap and Charlie Pride and Barbara Mandrell and all those. I mean, that's the school that I kind of grew up in, and it was a school of where the song was everything.
The song was king.
The song was king, regardless of what else was going on. And there were always these little cliques in Nashville, always. There's always politics in whatever industry. But the difference back then, it seems to me, and I've heard the same story from very good friends of mine who've been in the industry longer than I have, who would say, would affirm that even with the cliques back then, you had a bunch of, producers going to the Longhorn Steakhouse talking about the new artist that's they're going to produce, and hey, you got some songs, Don, hey, give me some songs. But the thing is they would all want to cut their own stuff, right? Mm-hmm. But if they found a song from some nobody and it was a great song, they all had the wisdom and the wherewithal to say, you know what, boys, we all love each other, but this song
it's good.
Is a great song.
Yeah.
And we, somebody like Nick, for example, and Marshall comes up and says, hey, here's a song. The guys 25 years ago, regardless of how good of friends they were with each other in the songs they wanted to cut, would hands down say, hey, look, this is a great
and there's
song.
so many stories like that throughout the industry over the last 30 years. I mean, are you familiar with Aaron Anderlin?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that kind of happened with her when she was in college. She had that Monday Morning Church song.
Uh-huh.
Somehow or another, Alan Jackson heard it and had to have it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a good example of somebody who had no success whatsoever in songwriting yet. And major artist,
and because the song was king.
Yep.
And
so nowadays it's more of a pipeline where you have, it's almost like those sweat factories, like they're just pumping out songs.
Well, and that's what I had begun to do. I was writing for publishers and going in every day, and I had writers, and you did a lot of co-writing because co-writing meant numbers, more songs, you know. And it became a numbers game where it wasn't necessarily how good the song was, how many you wrote and how many you could get into the secretary's.
It was quantity over quality.
Well, it was all about quantity, and so I found myself being a part of the sweat factory, and I just began to become sort of isolated and burn out.
Yeah.
So
that led you to Texas.
And so, I had people down here, artists down here, who were recording my songs. I would find out that, so-and-so had recorded one of my songs is in Texas, and I was thinking, well, they're still recording like country, like music that
actual music.
Their songs, and I didn't understand what was going on in Nashville, so it made sense to me to kind of make the transition. Plus, I kind of needed a little bit of a change of scenery. You know? I mean, it was sort of refreshing for me to come down to a different place, because Nashville is a great town and it's a beautiful country up there, but I just kind of needed a change of scenery, too,
cool.
Because I think artists get stagnant.
Well, I was pretty dang stoked when I found out you had moved to Greenville, Texas, right? Smack dab Northeast Texas.
In Northeast Texas.
Because I've known about you for at least 10 years that I know of.
Oh, yeah?
I remember the John Michael Montgomery song. Which
was
I Don't Want the Song to End, which was, again, it was kind of calling Nashville out.
It was.
Then.
That was even when, I was at Tom Collins. That was my first cut and my first gold record, my first major cut, and my first gold record. But it was a result of me essentially saying, I'm not going to do what a publisher's telling me to do. I'm going to write a song, and so that was sort of proof to me to keep following.
That you could buck the trend and get away with
it. I could,
absolutely.
I could do what I felt like I needed to do and be true to myself, and it would still in some way pay off, So, Nashville's a great town, so much talent up there. I still go. I just came back.
Yeah.
I was up there cutting a few overdubs on this new record that's coming out in January, and I still have wonderful friends up there, wonderful people up there. I don't know. I got a call from a publisher today about a song that some guy from Canada is recording, and he's like, now, do you know who's over it? I'm like, man, I have no idea. So
that's the
I've sort of
business sense again,
right?
Yeah.
Said, you're going to have to call those folks because that song is in that old catalog. So, so I still have, I still go up there. I still have dealings with my catalog. I've got catalog with Sony. I've got catalog with BMG Chrysalis. I've got catalog at Word Music. I've got catalogs everywhere over there. So I still sort of have to deal with that to manage it, and I still have good friends up there. And it's a good town, but it's just
It's not Texas.
It's not Texas, and Texas is so the music is so diverse, and there's just so much more opportunity for independents, especially.
I agree.
You know, for
So, guys,
music.
we are sitting here with the one and only Tony Ramey. It's episode 302. Guys, we're going to be right back with more from Tony right after this.
Hi, I'm David Allen.
And I'm Mrs. David Allen.
Leslie Satcher.
I'm Leslie Satcher. Thanks for tuning in to the ETX Rock Show. It truly does rock.
All right, so we're sitting here with Tony Ramey again, and he's going to play us another song. This one's called Into the Sun. This is going to be on the new record, right?
It's going to be on the new record. I mean, I put this out as a single in a different version than what's actually going to be on the record.
Okay.
I'm kind of sneaky that
Uh-oh.
way. So this song, I did a video with this song, released it back, I think either April or May. I wanted kind of an early release on it to let it live and breathe out there a little while. I've been, received at my shows fairly well by it because a lot of folks request it in my live shows. But the song came out of, crazy enough, I had some vocal issues last year that lasted 3 months. And I was pushing through these shows, and it was just allergy related, and it had never hung on as long as it did. East Texas, and I tell you, man, I was a little concerned because I was starting to think, well, I mean, I was able to push through it, the shows that I had, but I was at the point where I was wanting to even stop booking because
Wow.
I was only at 60% maybe, when I was able to play these shows, and so I started to think, man, maybe this is a sign, that I need to probably do something else. Because,
Back to the degree.
Yeah, maybe so. And so that's where this song came from. And it's really about, hey, every now and then you've got to look back and go, maybe this is the last ride into the sun. So I wrote it and I released it the first part of this year. Like I said, the production is a little bit different. The record's got a little more, vibey stuff on it. But I always do that. I'll release a single, and then before the album comes out, there's a little something
Twist.
special, on the tunes as they come out. Most of the time in production value, and arrangement will be a little bit different. So that's where the song is sitting.
Very
now.
cool. So again, it's Tony Ramey live in the ETX Rocks living room. The song's called Into the Sun. Y'all check it out.
I've been rolling like a stone for miles out on this highway, chasing white lines of lonely cafes and sordid motels. With a blood red sky and my windshield hanging like a heartache. And a trail of dust and memories to bid me farewell. Into the sun, into the sun. The devil closing in behind with the things I've done. Heaven to hell, it's my last run. Into the sun, into the sun. Into the sun. Well, I can't help staring through the crack in my rearview mirror now. thinking about the broken dreams and the loves I've lost. Ain't it funny how a blinded light can help you see things clearer sometimes? I think I know now why cowboys always ride on into the sun, into the sun. The devil closing in behind for the things I've done. Heaven or hell, it's my last run into the sun, into the sun. Heaven or hell, it's my last run into the sun, into the sun. Into the sun. Into the sun.
All right, so we are back again. It's episode 302, featuring the one and only Tony Ramey. Huge fan of your work. You know that now,
Thank
I
you,
hope.
man.
Again, we are huge fans of the songwriter anyway, and this is one of the best we've ever had on the show.
Well, thank you. I'm honored to be a part of it. I was honored that you called, and I was happy to come up and be a part of it. I always love, like I said, we love people like you, man, who give a platform to independent artists, songwriters, and otherwise, because else what would we do and where would we go? You know.
So we've been talking about the new album. This is due for release in January. Of
January the
course,
15th.
this will be released on the 14th, so this is actually perfect.
Wow,
the album releases tomorrow.
That is, man, that's...
Yeah.
Sarah
So tell us
Diffie.
about the record and what we can expect.
Well, man, the record, I vowed to myself, the next record I make, I'm only going to put 10 or 11 songs on it. And, of course, I broke my promise again. Now, the record in physical copy and from the website will be a 15-song release. I know, man. My friends tell me I can't shut up, you know. But the thing is, man, is I'm a songwriter, so I can't, you know, it's hard when you're kids or you got all your kids together and you got to decide which ones to cut out of the, you know.
Right.
So I always had a hard time doing that. But, you know, honestly, I think I'm going to be probably most proud of this record as a lot of others that I've done, because this record's been in about 2.5 years in the making. I mean, I started cutting tracks. I didn't know it at the time, but I started cutting tracks for these songs 2.5 years ago.
Wow.
And I went through this whole thing with, you know, I have a kind of a TR Club membership thing where I do EPs for members who join and all that. But I had started to, you know, with all the stuff I've been hearing about social media and with all that's going on with the new platforms of streaming and all that, I started to wonder whether it's even worth it, you know, to make records anymore. I mean, I didn't know really what would be the point. And I think I finally landed on, you know, I think artists, for the most part, make records for themselves more than anything else. So that's kind of what this is. I mean, there are new songs on this album, and then there are songs on this album that are like 17 years old.
Wow.
Songs that I'd always wanted to record. Like there's one song that Kenny Chesney recorded years and years ago, but it never made the record. And then another South Texas artist recorded it, but I have never recorded the song, but I've always loved it. I just never had a chance to put it on an album. And so I dug way back deep in my catalog for about half of this record, a little less than half, and then there's some brand new songs on the album. So it's going to be called I've Always Had a Song.
Nice.
And the title track is kind of a very personal song for me about being a songwriter. And, you know, it's not the most lucrative business these days. Or glamorous. But you do it because it's sort of, you have to because it's who you are. I mean, you know, it's kind of a result of who you are. So it's titled Always Had a Song, and 15 tracks. but almost 3 years in the making.
Wow.
And so I'm kind of excited.
So really a labor of love.
It really is, man. I mean, I had no idea when I started these tracks that I was going to be doing another album, and I finally was kind of pushed into it. I've got folks that travel hours to theater shows, and the listening rooms are saying, "When are you coming out with a new album?" You know, and so you almost feel a little guilty if you don't put new music out somehow on a platform. And that people can actually buy at the shows, because I still have a lot of folks who like to buy an album,
Yeah.
you know. And
I'm one of those people.
yeah, I mean, so there's still that crowd out there, and I think that's what keeps me going on that side of it. The commercial side of it is, you know, for me, I'm happy in my studio writing a song, and to me that's rewarding. And I have, if I didn't have an audience, I would still be doing it, you know.
You just do it more for yourself.
I'd just be doing it for myself, because that's how it started in the first place.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. So now, if people haven't heard of Tony Ramey, I don't know how that's possible, but if they haven't, where
it's
can they
possible.
follow along?
So yeah, I think the one I'm doing now is on the new record.
Okay.
But it's a little more. See, I set out for this production. I love 80s music.
Yeah.
And I just love the sound.
There's still a lot of 80s country vibes.
Well,
in
there's
this stuff.
there is, and so this song just ain't trying. It is kind of got that production, that feel to it, and I'm really excited about how it turned out, man. It took me a little while to get the sound I wanted on this tune.
Yeah.
But I think folks, I hope folks like it when it comes out. So I'm gonna play that for you guys here.
Yeah, y'all check it out. It's Just Ain't Trying. This is a cool song.
Thanks.
We got him to tell a little bit of a story about it too that we're going to include here, so you don't have to retell it. We already have it on tape, so we'll put it in there. So you guys check it out. It's the sneak peek song of our upcoming interview with Tony Ramey. It's Just Ain't Trying. Y'all check it out.
Smoke on a cafe we used to go. Still a stop on my way home. All my good friends say I do it to myself. The lost is loneliness instead of finding someone else. Trying to get over you, baby. Just taking my time. A few things I'm still working through. I'm doing fine. Maybe I'm just crazy, not accepting the way things are. Trying to get over you, baby. Just ain't trying all that hard. Those better evenings, candlelight and wine, us dancing and laughing, hand in mind. These old feelings I don't wanna let go. No, I gotta move on sometime, baby. Just moving a little slow. I'm trying to get over you, honey. Just taking my time. another stop on my way home.
All right, so we are back once again. It's Tony Ramey. It's episode 302. Where can folks follow along with everything you got going on social media and everything like that?
TonyRamey.com, obviously. You can find me on Apple, the iTunes. I'll be on Spotify, Google Play, Deezer. Somebody told me that I had a Pandora channel, and I don't know anything about that, but I do know that I'm up there as well.
I know you have a Facebook and a
Facebook
Instagram
page. The Facebook music page is Tony Ramey Page.
Okay.
It's just called Tony Ramey Page. So folks can look me up there. The Twitter is at Tony Ramey. That's the Twitter handle. And then I've got an Instagram. I don't do the Snapchat thing because I don't understand any of that stuff. I know you put funny faces on yourself and all that jazz, but
I don't get it.
But I do those three platforms. I think Bandcamp. I've got just kind of stuff out there everywhere. If people type in Tony Ramey on the Google search engine deal, all that stuff should come up.
And we'll link Tony's website down below, TonyRamey.com. I know you can get access to all of his social media and his music and stuff like that is all located on the webpage, as well as tour information. I'm one of the busiest artists in Texas.
Well, we hope to keep that going.
Yeah. So again, it's Tony Ramey here on the ETX Rock Show for the first time ever. Hopefully not the last.
No, no way.
All right, cool. You're not that far away.
No, not. I'm just up the road, actually, a little ways. It's a nice little drive down here.
So kind of a hidden gem here in East Texas.
Well,
hopefully we can get him to do more shows in East Texas. East Texas venues out there. I know you played Mount Pleasant and Pittsburgh. And
I have. Pittsburgh,
like
Mount Pleasant, Marshall, down to where's it? A little bit Beaumont, and then down to Houston, Conroe. Quite a bit over there.
Yeah, we got to have Tony here more in East Texas. He's right in our own backyard. So let's make that happen. Venues out there. Book Tony Ramey. TonyRamey.com is where you go to do that. If you're tuned into us for the first time, I want to thank you for spending some time with us here on ETX Rocks. You can find us located on all social media at ETX Rocks. The webpage is etxrocks.show, and there's all kinds of content on there. You'll find all kinds of new artists that you've never heard of before, as well as some that you've heard of a lot, like Vince Gill and Ronnie Millsap and folks like that have appeared on the show. So check all of that out. It'll keep you busy for a while, I promise you. There's a lot of content on there. They call us the #1 resource for independent music in Northeast Texas for a reason, and it's because we are. And the proof is in the pudding, etxrocks.show. As we've always said on the show for 302 episodes, we want to thank you guys out there for always supporting live music of all genres and all styles. And don't ever forget,
ETX rocks.
That's right.
From the unknown to the stars, from the couch to the car, from the unheralded and the unheard, to the legends and beyond, it's where we all belong. Yes, this is where it all starts. From every genre, from every plane, this is where the music's played. So tune right in, won't you bring a friend? This is where it all begins. Welcome to the show, let the music flow, of every style and creed. And you can bet your socks that ETX rocks.